Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for a 10-minute perspective. I'm joined today by with Matt Mead from SPR. Hi Matt.
Hi, Andy.
What's what are you wearing, Matt?
Yeah, just like many folks around planet Earth, we're trying to do our part at SPR by folks that have a 3D printer at home. Folks are printing the parts for a protective shield for healthcare workers. So just trying to do our small part to help the world.
That's awesome. That's amazing, Matt. It's really great to see companies helping other people outside of simply just looking at our clients, but also just looking at the community as a whole and really helping out. That's fantastic. So,
Thank you.
Matt, I wanted to, if you wouldn't mind, if you could kind of give the folks at home a little bit of introduction, a little bit of background on yourself here, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm the CTO of SPR. And as a CTO, I help with setting the technical direction with a group of brilliant folks at SPR that help me, of course. And then all the consultants roll up to me, so I'm heavily involved in our engagements and the way that we engage with our customers and just everything around client satisfaction. So that's a little bit about my role and where I fit in at the organization. Been there about 20 years, so I've been there a while.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt. So, a couple of questions I'd like to ask you. So, to start off here is I'd really like to understand why AWS. So, why is SPR going down the path of AWS, and what do you like about it?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think our story is sort of interesting, and I think it's interesting because it's so organic, in my opinion. First off, so we're a systems integrator. We're headquartered in Chicago. We service the Midwest. We build lots of enterprise applications for companies that are in the Midwest or that are also national and global. And we found ourselves probably a decade or so ago, lost track a little bit of time, but we found ourselves doing lots of AWS work for our customers as we're building these enterprise applications. And we, of course, as a continuous learning organization, wanted to encourage our consultants and support them to learn more about AWS so we could service our clients. Over time, Andy, we found that we were providing a ton of value for our customers by building solutions on AWS. Back in the day, we were using EC2 instances and, say, S3 buckets for storage and things like that. It's evolved quite a bit, and the complexity and the breadth of the scope of AWS has obviously changed over time. But what we found over time was that we were providing a ton of value, but one day we woke up and thought, gosh, maybe if we were partnered with AWS, we would understand the ecosystem even better. We could provide even more value to the customer. And so that was about 2 years ago. So fast forward 2 years, we're an advanced partner. We've been a partner for about 2 years, but it's probably been about a decade that we've been doing some work at least on the AWS cloud platform.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
When I think about AWS, as you mentioned, right, it's such a big platform, but there's some advantages I've seen with companies as they build their applications in a cloud native fashion. If you wouldn't mind, can you share with me your thoughts around that subject?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this is actually something that's really near and dear to our hearts and my heart at SPR. The place where we fit in the AWS sort of ecosystem is that our play with our customers is not necessarily typically front and center, hey, we want to save you money by going to AWS. Now, that's not to say that we don't have customers that do save money as sort of a super important side effect. But the way that we look at the AWS and the cloud is we look at AWS providing the cloud platform, obviously, and then SPR's important piece and other partners' important piece then is to implement or orchestrate a cloud native implementation on top of that platform. And so we do that obviously by using certain techniques and patterns, and we sort of optimize the possibilities of what we can do with cloud native. We really think that for a lot of our customers, especially in these COVID times, saving costs is actually really important. But what's probably more important is working with our customers to drive business outcomes. And the way that we do that is we work with our customers to find the need in the marketplace where they provide some sort of need for their customers. And then we try and take that need and figure out some way to do an implementation on AWS that provides even greater value, and try and position them so they can be a differentiator in the marketplace. And we feel very strongly that the way to do that is to adopt technologies and techniques that are only available in the cloud to provide that differentiation. And that's where we sort of focus with our customers. And Andy, you know, probably 9 times out of 10, there's a cost savings opportunity, by the way. It's just not where we start. And we really start with driving business value and business outcomes.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. You know, when we think about like looking at that move to the cloud, and then obviously leveraging the cloud as much as possible, and your journey for going cloud native, certainly there's lots of opportunities for cost savings and whatnot. But I'm curious, Matt, if you wouldn't mind, if you could tell me about some of the things that you're doing on AWS right now.
Yeah, sure. Well, let me address that by saying there's sort of 3 categories or buckets of types of work or types of activity or things that we participate in this very vast ocean of AWS. The first and foremost is really at our roots and what we've been doing. SPR has been around for over 45 years. We plan to be here for another 45. And so cloud native app development is something that really gets back to our roots in that, you know, sort of building solutions and doing the heavy lifting for our customers. So within that category, you know, we're looking for new ways and techniques to take advantage of the platform. Like I mentioned earlier, you know, things like event-driven architecture and serverless are areas that we're constantly coaching our customers where we think they can get a ton of value. So that's number one, sort of cloud native. The second is around data and analytics. So when we look at data and analytics, we sort of look at it as at least at the macro level, a 2-step process. Step 1 is let's get the customer's data into the AWS platform. So once we get it there, though, it's not necessarily generating value. So what we want to do is step 2, where we sort of figure out what can we do to operationalize this data and sort of turn the data into information. There's actually an awesome quote from an AWS white paper, and unfortunately, I don't recall the author or the exact white paper, but it sort of talks about the speed at which information can be available, you know, dictates the speed at which business decisions can be made. And I think that's sort of the mantra for us when it comes to data and analytics. So that's the second category where we do a ton of work. And we're going to be taking advantage of things like S3, Athena, data lakes, glue services, Aurora, and things like that when it comes to data and analytics. And then the third category, Andy, is around cloud enablement and migration. And again, I kind of talked earlier where, you know, sure, we're going to help customers do sort of some lift and shift of some workloads to get it to the AWS platform. But that's not really sort of the destination for us. That's sort of just a stop along the way, because what we want to do next is sort of do some app modernization to take that almost for sure legacy monolithic application that's not really taking advantage of scalability and the, you know, elastic nature of what's available within AWS. And we want to do some modernization on it to incorporate some of those cloud native aspects so that we can, you know, allow that customer to have a business differentiator potentially, and then, you know, maybe a cost savings like we talked about earlier as well. So those are sort of the 3 areas where we're doing the bulk of our work.
Oh, that's excellent. So when I think about like a company's journey, one of the challenges that I can see is that because the platform is so big, you know, where do you start? It's almost like, you know, sitting there and do I have to boil the ocean to make this happen? I don't know if you have any recommendations for individuals that are looking at how do I even just start this journey?
Yeah, sure. So there's a bunch of things that come to mind, Andy. I mean, one of the first things is just sort of a mindset where I think it would be really important for a customer or, you know, just someone out there looking to move to AWS and maybe sort of dipping their toe or jumping in the deep end for the first time would be to try not to think about everything in sort of the old frameworks or the old ways, trying to, you know, keep an open mind, because there are different ways to architect solutions on the AWS platform using technologies that aren't even available on-prem. So if you're going to AWS for the first time, you got to keep an open mind and not be sort of stuck in your old ways. And it really starts with this sort of open mindset. The other thing is that we would recommend is not to start necessarily with something that's business critical as your first endeavor, especially if you're jumping in the deep end and you don't have a life preserver or you're not working with a partner or someone to help you out. And the reason I say that is, Kevin McMahon at SPR, he's a smart colleague of mine, and he likes to talk about the pancake theory, the first pancake theory. And so the pancake theory, or the first pancake theory, is something that's applied to many aspects in life. He applies it to jumping into the deep end at AWS. And what he talks about is, the first pancake, the griddle might not be the right temperature. You might not have enough butter or oil if you're going to make it delicious and unhealthy. The batter might be too thick. And so your first pancake is not your best pancake. Now, I don't know that we need to throw out that first implementation on AWS, but it might not be your best. There might be some refactoring that's going to be required. So let's not pick something that's like uber business critical. Let's start with something that we can refactor a bit and, have a little bit of evolution to get it to a place where we think that's really good. That's really providing business value. And then your second or third implementation can be something that's business critical. We certainly want to drive toward business value. So those would be some of the things that we think about. But, and maybe one last thing, Andy, is I would say we love customers that want to lift and shift workloads to AWS, and that's part of what we do for organizations. And that's something that we would encourage folks that are wanting to start using AWS. But I would say, like I said earlier, don't look at that as your destination, because it can provide value. There's lots of things that it could provide, including cost savings, but there's so much more value that's just off the charts, different and better and higher in magnitude that you can get if you look to take advantage of some of the AWS cloud native things that you just can't do on-prem. So when you move that workload, you gotta, for your organization's sake, look for how can I modernize this? And that would be sort of the second step. So we love lift and shift, but don't have the lift and shift and the destination of just landing on AWS be the finish line.
Excellent, Matt. I really appreciate the insights around that. It really does make a lot of sense. And certainly from companies, that initial move, right, that might not necessarily be really the ultimate goal for them. So I like looking at that from that further perspective of how can I save even more money? How can I leverage this even more to automate away some of the tasks that, we don't really need to have people do it. That's fantastic.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, Matt, I really appreciate you taking some time today to talk with us.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. We're honored. I'm honored, and SPR is honored to be part of your YouTube channel. So thanks so much, Andy.
Excellent. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.